Hey, let's go on to the juicy part of the show as far as training camp goes.
This is one of our favorite topics in season.
Listen, this is a hockey staple, and to me, it's not cliched because I enjoy it so much.
Yes.
I never get tired of line combinations.
No.
I never do. All right, let's start with the highlights, the bullet points, and work from there, Declan Goff.
You got it.
Marcus Johansson.
Yep.
Who was acquired from Buffalo in the Eric Staal trade. And we all assumed was going to be left at center, where he played for Buffalo in a disappointing 2019-20 season. But he really is better suited to be a wing.
Yep.
But we all assumed that he was opening day training camp and the season was going to be the first line center because there's a lack of better options. Actually started training camp on the left wing with Bonino at center and Fiala on the right wing. My first thought, and I understand, this team needs centers, okay? They don't have them right now, but they don't. I personally would prefer if Johansson is flat out a better winger. I like this move.
Yep.
Because if you force a guy, the center position carries a lot of responsibilities, and if you're not great there, it can be a real problem. I like the fact that somebody, Evison, Guerin, a combination, basically said, let's not worry about this guy, about trying to force this guy into a really high-profile role that we're afraid he can't excel at. Let's put him where he's comfortable. Move one on this. I think it's the right move.
I think it's the right move, too. I think Marcus Johansson is a very uber-talented dude. When he was in Washington, he was dynamite. He was a fun player to watch. He's fast as heck, and from what we've seen from notes at practice, that's what he is. He's a fast player. I don't think he was suited to be a center. So I'm totally okay with him being at wing and sticking him at wing. Now, you can make a case that, well, is Nick Bjugstad really that better of an option at center? Well, at least he's predominantly played the position a little bit more. I know he's been fragile. He's been broken down by injuries and concussions and back problems. But I actually would rather see Bjugstad be in the middle on the top. And also, as I told you, I think Bonino is ifdo de facto your best center you have two-way. Like, he's still more of a defensive forward
he's a
center.
third line ideal.
He's a third line center. But I'd rather have him also between two guys like Johansson and Fiala, who are, let's be honest, kind of one-way players right now. I mean, Fiala can still elevate a game and be a defensive style player, but Johansson certainly isn't.
Yeah.
So if you have a steady rock in the middle and Bonino, who's going to be kind of like a little saving grace between the two, because Johansson and Fiala might be a little bit limited defensively, I actually really like that pairing. And I think that's probably the Wild's best line. I really like it.
So that is technically, although of course the team would tell you we don't number lines, Judd and Declan.
Yeah.
That is technically their second line. The first line on the first day of training camp, and I think the first couple days of camp.
Yep.
You mentioned it. Bjugstad at center.
Yeah.
Parise on the left wing. Kaprizov on the right wing. I'm with you on Bjugstad. If you're going to force a guy, Bjugstad is flat out not a first line center. We all know that, okay?
Yeah.
No bleep, Sherlock. But if you're going to force a guy to play a too high profile position, I would far prefer what you just said, which is take a guy who can do it and Bjugstad's biggest problem, I think, is staying on the ice.
Yeah.
He's had some problems with injuries and missed extensive time last season with the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I think it's a better idea to give Bjugstad a shot here. I don't think he's going to be great. I think he's probably, again, a guy who's probably a second or third line guy. But that being said, if you're going to go this direction, I think allowing Johansson to play the position at which he's completely comfortable. And by the way, if he's playing a position at which he's completely comfortable, he might excel.
Yeah.
Bjugstad, I don't know. He might get hurt. Who knows? But I think that the thought process here is right. You had mentioned to me, I think a couple weeks back when we weren't doing Judd's hockey show on a weekly basis yet, you had mentioned to me, asked me the question, and then I think weighed in yourself on Kaprizov and Fiala potentially being line mates.
Yeah.
They are not to start off with. I told you I wouldn't do it at first, and I don't think that they will. But is that something that you would still like to see, or would you prefer to see how they fare split apart? Because I do think that there is a case to be made if you need instant offense. That could be really intriguing at certain points, much like the Blackhawks would have Taves and Kane together, split them up. But then I think at certain points, like in third periods where they were trailing, would put them back together because you can generate offense.
So at first, I like the idea of them because I just think they're the two most skilled offensive players the Wild have. And that's not a hot take by any means. They're very, very good. But I think for right now, it's probably is best to split them up. And also, it looks like, and we can get into this too, they're both going to be on the same power play unit.
Mhm.
So if you're going to have two of those dudes on the same power play unit, well, then I'm all in. Because at that point, that's going to be your best opportunity to score a goal, obviously. No bleep Sherlock. So I think having both those guys on the wing and being able to find goals, then I'm all for that. I think that's a good idea. The interesting part about that power play dilemma is what they're going to do in the middle, because even though Bonino and Ek and Bukestad are your centers right now, your top three centers. Sorry, Victor Rask, not listing you right now.
We'll get to him.
Zach Parise has been getting looks in the dot.
Yep.
On the number one power play. And Michael Russo points this out in the Athletic friend of the show that he's going to be, you can't take him off the top power play because he makes his killing on the power play. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a good move. I think you have to keep in what world would you take him off the top power play? So him in the draw, and he's actually in smaller sample size, is actually and pretty decent in the face-off circle. I don't think he's someone that's going to be in the face-off circle every night. But if you're in the offensive zone and you need to win a draw, and you have all those guys in Kaprizov, Fiala, Dumba, and Spurgeon, obviously Dumba and Spurgeon aren't taking it. Who's going to take it? It's probably going to be Zach. So I think that's the right move.
Which to me is fine.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
Even though, look, I know Koivu had his limitations offensively towards the end, but I understood why Koivu would take the draw on a power play in the number one unit. I would understand why he'd do that. I know then it was Stahl too, but I could get that because you need to win that draw. That's very important for you to do. So if Zach's the best possible option with all your, and by the way, as number one power play unit, Kaprizov, Parise, Fiala, Dumba, Spurgeon. I love that.
I was going to say,
I seriously love that.
I think you could score some goals with that power play unit, don't you?
I don't think it's going to be the most lethal unit in the league, but I certainly think it has the potential to be a top 10 unit.
Fiala would be really good there, and Kaprizov with the way that he can shoot.
Dumba on top, and Jared Spurgeon, who's as steady as it gets. Now your second unit, and Johansson, Bonino, Bukestad, Hunt, and Suter. It might be
Brodin's getting looks there too. My guess is Hunt is going to be scratched a lot.
Yep.
So I think the second power play is going to be Johansson, Bukestad, Bonino, Suter, Brodin.
Yeah, that's probably a safety. And look, Hunt. The only reason Brad Hunt is really on an NHL roster in the night and is to play the power play.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to be a healthy scratch.
I will cool my jets on the Brad Hunt hate that I had last year. Also, especially if Keon Addison's ready to go.
Well, you're going to cut him, is what you're going to do.
Yeah, I would cut him.
So
he's a nice guy.
You can't hate it. Oh, he's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a great dude.
He's a fantastic
I'm a great guy, but you might have to cut me. You know what?
Exactly right. Yeah, that first power play to me could be really exciting.
Oh, yeah.
And Parise taking draws, I'm fine with. The thing about Zach is he is a professional, and so he's going to execute the assignment as best he possibly can. Like, I'm never concerned about his play itself. So there's not there's been things off the ice sometimes about how he reacts to things that might concern me, but I don't have concerns about his ability or his want to execute what the coaching staff wants.
Sure.
So I think if you go Parise in the dot, Kaprizov, Fiala, it's pretty solid. So that gets us to the third line. And there's one thing that I'm sort of surprised here, and I guess I'm sort of not. Third line has Greenway and Foligno on the wings, which, by the way, is a lot of beef. That's a lot of big people right there. That's a line that you are going to go into the corners against and probably not come out with the puck, assuming that Greenway is doing his job.
You're going to match up that line against the top line.
Yes. And then what's intriguing is Ek, who is an established center, who I think is ideally a third line center, but I think that with the Wild's current depth chart at center, you could certainly make a case that he might be higher. But yes, I think his defensive abilities, to what you just said, and putting him with Greenway and Foligno, you've got at least two guys in Foligno and Ek who are going to make life miserable for top lines.
Yeah, that's going to be your shutdown line. You need a big defensive face-off win. You need to slow down a team in the defensive zone. That's going to be out there. And you saw Ek, Greenway, and then when Luke Cunnin was here, that line was actually pretty productive together. They were pests. They weren't necessarily scoring goals, but they were preventing them.
Cunnin was a good pest.
And they're really good pests. So I think that line actually does make a lot of sense. I think they might rely on that line when things aren't going well. But it's going to be a tough one to play against, especially with Greenway, Foligno, and Ek literally making life miserable for top line players.
What's your expectation for Greenway?
Great question.
I can't decide now. I was so high on him,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he did come back in better shape because at the end of the summer playoff run, I think Bill Guerin pulled him aside and said, dude, 2021 is going to be incredibly important for you. But what should be the expectation there? Like Marcus Foligno, is that Marcus Foligno playing his best? Is that as good as Greenway can do? Because my initial thought process, Dex, on Jordan Greenway was that this was going to be a really, not a star player, but a really good player who could get in front, who could score goals for the things that I'm now talking about Matt Boldy doing when he eventually gets here.
I think I'd say that if his ceiling is Marcus Foligno on his best, I think that actually be probably a disappointment for who Jordan Greenway is.
100%. I'm with you.
So,
but that's what I'm saying is,
yeah.
Should we reset the expectation to be that, which you nailed it. If that's his best, that's a big disappointment to me.
And
big disappointment.
And Foligno's a nice player, and Greenway and Foligno, if that's their careers, they can have a nice little career. They can have a good 10-year run in the NHL, make some money. And
Greenway should be on one of the top two lines right now.
Yeah, he should be. And he'll have to earn that. He'll 100% have to earn that. And they've tried that before. They've put him in that area, and he hasn't succeeded. He's supposed to be this typical big power forward who's going to get in front of the net. He's not going to, dangle you with his stick handling by any means, but he's going to get in front of the net and he's going to get a dirty goal. I would like for him to take a big step up. I thought if you're going to trade one of these kids, because I was hard on him last year, I thought it'd be Greenway. And maybe his value was just such in the tank that you probably couldn't get what you wanted for him.
I think you just nailed it.
And I think Cunnin was the only player, and I'm disappointed that Cunnin is gone, but I understand why he was traded, because I think people probably see like, oh, at least I've seen this kid score some goals, and I've seen this kid have intangibles off the ice that I can build upon.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
And I don't think people saw it with Greenway. And again, that's where I think fans and people who watch the team or cover the team put blinders on when you get so used to watching the same team and same players over and over again that they just aren't who you think they are. So I want Greenway to take a step up. If anything, I would say I'd put him, and unfortunately he's behind the 8 ball with injuries, but it was him and Zuccarello that I want to see take the next step forward in different ways. Zuccarello is obviously an established veteran who's coming off the worst year of his career, and in Greenway in a chance of, dude, are you going to do this? Or is this going to be, who do you want to be, basically, is Jordan Greenway? Who do you want to be?
Yeah.
And Matt Zuccarello, with this arm injury, unfortunately, puts him behind it. But I really hope Jordan Greenway takes the next step, because I think he has probably the most to prove on this roster. I think he has the most to prove.
He is a potentially great asset to have if he takes that step.
Yeah.
He could be, I mean, when you look at his size, what he should be able to do, parking himself in front of the net or going into the corners, he's got some skill.
Yeah.
He should be, yes. If his ceiling is Marcus Foligno at Foligno's best, it's a big disappointment. By the way, Luke Cunnin got a 2-year, $4.6 million contract from the Nashville Predators. So
I believe he was an RFA, so he was trying to, I think, get his rights there.
He got a bridge deal.
Yeah,
instead.
good for him.
All right, so the fourth line, Victor Rask,
classic,
centering for Ryan Hartman and Nico Sturm, and like you said, Zuccarello's not accounted for because of the offseason arm surgery that he had. He won't be taking part in camp. So Rask, Sturm, who, by the way, in the bubble in Edmonton against the Canucks, I really liked.
And I liked him before the shutdown, too, actually. There was a few games where he had a cup of coffee that he looked fine. He looked serviceable.
And Hartman is a very hard worker.
Yep. He's a fourth line guy. That's who Ryan Hartman is.
Yep.
And that's
he's good at it.
And he's good at it. The main key cog there is the guy in the middle, and Victor Rask. Now, Victor, actually, when they had him as just a fourth line guy, wasn't that bad. And I say that that was the best case scenario. Yeah, he wasn't that. Yeah, of course he was. He wasn't bad on the fourth line.
The analytics didn't kill him.
He didn't get killed there.
Sure.
The problem was this was the Guerin move that we talked about right around this time last year. That did I see that Victor Rask is centering the second line and is on the opening faceoff here against the Carolina Hurricanes?
That was towards the end of Boudreaux. Is that right? Was that towards the end of Boots?
Yeah, maybe. And I think it was towards the end of Boots. And we all thought, and you knew for a fact that Bruce Boudreau had zero interest in putting him on the second. And look, I respect Guerin for saying that. Also, I think Guerin has the pull and also the respect of a coach to say, hey, I've been there and done that. I got to figure out how to get this guy off my roster. And I can only do that if he plays 16 minutes a night, not 9 minutes in garbage time. I don't think Fenton did a very good job at trying to say that. Fenton just said, no, I want this kid for Nino Niederreiter. He's going to play for him, blah, blah, blah. Guerin's actually Garrett knows what it takes to be a player, obviously. So I hope Victor Rask, look, if it works out, great. He's probably going to still end up being a buyout candidate. It was a bad trade.
He can't really skate. And I don't think it's like he was out of shape and fat. I just don't think he can really skate.
No, you can't.
I don't think he can really skate. And I think he does have some skills, but because he can't skate, like, I don't think he's bereft of skills, but because he can't skate well, his skills don't matter.
Right. I mean, yeah, he scored.
Victor Rask, I think, might have been a damn good player in 1986. In fact, you know what I bet? And I'm dead serious here. I'm not joking around. So Paul Fenton played in the 80s into the early 90s. I bet you Paul Fenton saw skills that translated to back then. Because Victor Rask is not a terrible player, but he can't get to pucks. And then when he does, he's often too late. Like, think about the deficiencies. The real deficiencies of his game are modern hockey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this game is so fast now that if you can't keep up, you're just pretty much screwed, I think.
Yeah, it's his skating. And that's what I told you about Kaprizov, is can he skate? Because that's what we'll be able to tell. I know he can shoot. Honestly, and this doesn't even mean stereotyping, every Russian hockey player that's come over here can shoot the puck at will. I mean, it's insane. Can he skate? Can he skate, and can he be a two-way player? And we'll figure out.
God bless America. We get to find out.
And judging from the training camp notes, and obviously that, just like any other spring training preseason, take that with some grain of salt, but it looks like he's the real deal. He's got insane offensive skill. He's catching the eyes of everyone on the ice. I think there's still a little bit of a language barrier there, him trying to communicate and where to go. But thankfully, hockey is such, I know where to be even if I don't speak the same language.
Right, you can figure it out.
I'm waiting to see him at apparently he's close to me in the North Loop.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's in Minneapolis.
Yeah,
he's close to me.
why don't you guys go hang?
Yeah, I've been looking for him.
Kamarchuk's.
Yeah.
Go hang there.
I could hang with him. Can you imagine him and a seltzer? I think he might do it. He obviously is I know vodka in Russian.
I can see him drinking for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll hang out with him. I'll let you know.
And then in goal, Cam Talbot, Kaapo Kakkonen, Andrew the Hamburglar Hammond, Stalock is hurt.
Hamburglar.
So the one thing in goal that I'm really curious because of the schedule and all the back-to-backs, the backup goaltender is going to have to play.
Yep.
Like you can't be like, hey, Cam Talbot, can you play 54? And if Stalock comes back, or Kaapo, can you play 2? The backup goaltender is going to have to play. I'm guessing with Stalock still out that he's not going to be back for a while.
Yeah.
So Kaapo, I would hope, is going to be the backup. I am really curious to see that one play out. Because again, from what the small sample size that we saw last year when Kaapo got called up, I thought he played pretty well.
I did too.
I think there might be something here. I think Cam is going to be the guy.
Here's the conundrum. The conundrum is Cam Talbot's the guy, and it's just going to be, and you're not going to like to hear this, but essentially it's going to be what Dubnyk was 2 or 3 years ago, where he's starting 70% of the games. I think that's what they want him to be.
Can you do that though with this schedule?
I don't
think you can do that.
That's
to him
our
with
conundrum.
I don't think you can do that to Cam Talbot. Like you are right. He's going to play a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to downplay this. But look at the schedule. I mean, you're traveling. You got a lot of travel, but you also have a lot of these back-to-backs, or game day off, game immediately again. You're right in the fact that it's going to be the conundrum to make the decision, but I am confident that we're going to see enough of Kaapo to at least get a read on him.
Yeah.
A full read, which I think he might be pretty good.
Yeah, and that's the problem is, or maybe it's a good problem to have, is this schedule. It's basically a baseball schedule. It's an abbreviated baseball. You're playing back-to-backs. You're playing 2-game series. You're typically on a back-to-back, you always start the backup goalie. So I'm just curious how that goalie rotation works. I'm really interested how it goes. I think that Kaapo is going to be the backup guy. I think that'd be best served too. Like Hammond's fine. Hammond's is a lifer AHL goalie. Like there's a reason they didn't bring back Matt Robson too.
Yeah, I think he's just there to sit there as the third guy until Stalock comes back. Don't you?
And I agree.
And
that's
then
probably what it is.
He'll go to Iowa. I think the American Hockey League teams that are going to play start in February.
Yeah.
So I think at that point Hammond will go down there. But all right. So last thing, defensive pairings. I think the top 4 are incredibly solid.
Yes.
As far as players,
Goes without
Suter,
saying.
Spurgeon, Brodin, Dumba, who I'm guessing now is not going to get traded during this season. I think he might be traded next offseason.
Could be.
Is my guess.
Yep.
But the thing is too, I think that Dumba, I've said this since last year. When you look at the amount of shots that guy had that he didn't score on, and he was snake bit, I think that Matt Dumba is going to come back with a very solid year. And I think he's going to get back to scoring. He's probably not going to be on the pace that he was when he got hurt a couple years back in the fight with Kachuk.
Yep.
But Declan, I think he is going to rebound and put up very solid offensive statistics. And he's going to have a year that, if the Wild chops him, makes him even more of a value, which he is presently, because he is a right-handed shot defenseman. But I think we're about to see a season from him in which he solidifies that value.
Yeah, and I can guarantee you he won't have another frustrating season like he did last year, where his shooting percentage was criminally low. It won't happen again. It typically with shooting percentages and save percentages, it fluctuates. That's just how it goes. And the conundrum, again, to use the word conundrum, which is I guess the word of the show today.
It's a great word.
So he's under contract for $6 million for this season, and then next season, and then he's a UFA again.
Yep,
and look, $6 million. And if he has the year he's going to have, he's going to want another bump. So I'm curious how that goes for him. Yes, he's a very interesting trade piece if they want to pursue that. But he is such a rarity at his position, even though that's becoming the new norm. And look, Dougie Hamilton's a UFA after this year. He's probably going to set the market on what Dumba would want to ask for. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. But I think Dumba is going to rebound just fine. You saw him that it was affecting his game towards the end. So I'm curious how it goes.
If he has a good year and you take him to market in July, and he has solidified himself enough at that point, you have to think that you would be talking about the potential return of a center that you really like, right?
Yep.
That's the one that I don't want to trade him, because I actually think that, with his skill set, those guys are hard to find. Read a guy like Brent Burns, who got traded. But that being said, if you discover that basically you've got a bunch of centers who belong as second and probably third line guys, and that you need one top guy, that's the guy that could probably get you that guy.
It would be the NHL ready piece that pushes you over, because it would still take a draft pick, probably would still take a top if you're trying to trade for one, right? If that's what we're looking at here.
But you might decide for 21, 22 that this is the piece. And 56 games is great, because it's going to end quick. I think that a 56 game season, as consolidated as this thing is going to go fast, but it's also going to be enough to allow you to make credible value judgments on players.
I agree. I'm curious how it goes out. I like it. It's going to be quick. It's going to be fast.
I love the schedule.
And there's only 9 p.m. starts, so calm down. It's not going to be that bad. That's only like 20% of the season.
I'm telling you, the division is a blessing. That four spot is there for the taking.
Yes.
In the Central, it's tougher.
Yeah, I agree.
No, that 4 spot. In fact, wait. I referred to it wrong. Hold on a second. Let me go through.
I know you're going.
I got it wrong. I'm sorry. I'd like to apologize.
Discover?
No. Hold on a second. No, hold on. The West.
The Honda.
The West Division the West Division by Honda. To me, it's a blessing to be in there, as opposed to the Central Division by Discover. Because if you're in the Central Division by Discover, it's going to be a log jam. The West Division by Honda, I got the Sharks, I got the Kings, I got the Ducks. I don't know if they're going to be good. The East Division by Mass Mutual, that's a backbreaker.
Oh yeah.
The Mass Mutual Division, a backbreaker. And then of course our friends in Canada, they got the North Division by that's branded by Scotiabank. Oh, I tell you what. But that East Division by Mass Mutual, that's going to be a fun one. Yeah. All right. Final thoughts?
Don't complain about those division names, by the way. Don't.
Bloggers are supposed to what? Stay off your back about division names, start times, and what's Paul Fenton.
I haven't gotten much pushback on the divisional thing. The start times too. The only people I get pushback from start times are people your age group.
Yeah, I don't like late starts.
Yeah, I know you don't like late starts.
But you know what? I saw the schedule. I saw what I think is a bunch of 8:30 starts. Those are great.
Yeah, I love that.
8:30 is a fantastic time to drop the puck.
I'm young. I'm single. I don't have any kids. I don't have any dogs. I'm up late. Okay, so I don't care.
I have no kids. The dog does not stop me. It's literally staying up for the third period.
So it's still, and does Stella make it to the third period?
It depends.
Yeah.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Good games, of course.
Of course.
All right, Judd's
Right,
Hockey Show will be back in a week, or who knows if something big goes down. Before then, we're back weekly. We appreciate you as always watching and listening. Declan?
Pass, shoot, score.